expanded. I talk to people every day, and what they tell me as I'm going around the district is that their biggest problem is that they don't have public transportation. They don't have real adequate public transportation so that they can access better jobs, so they can move around the district, and that would be my absolute #1 priority as your next senator.
Okay. Kathleen. There are 2 major infrastructure projects underway right now on both sides of the district. One is the Whittier Bridge renovation project, which is massive, and it is impacting Salisbury, Newburyport, and Amesbury. It's over a $200 million project, and it causes lots of work for our office because we want to respond to concerns from abutters and make sure that the project is running smoothly and to be a voice between residents and MassDOT. The other project that has excellent future prospects for our area is the Methuen Rotary project, and that's upwards of a $66.5 million project. And that's upwards of a $66.5 million project. And that is critical because it's going to not only reduce congestion, but right now there's a safety hazard. And it's very close to 13 Branch Street, and I know that safety will be increased once it's completed. It's about a 4-year project. Those are currently underway, but there's still future work to be done where there's no project slated, especially in North Andover, where that Route 114 corridor is extremely precarious. And we've allocated, I was able to get $1.5 million through the transportation bond bill so that they can act on recommendations, but it will take more funding. And when it comes to public transportation, what I'm concerned about is the current reason for not supporting an increase in the gas tax, which is no matter how much the gas tax goes up, I'm very troubled that public transportation fares continue to rise, and residents can't afford those fares.
And we have one more audience question. Jay Griffin.
Hi, my name's Jay Griffin. I'm from Methuen. And to both candidates, I always ask at every forum like this, how you have voted over the past 10 years as far as your federal, state, and local elections. How many have you missed? And I heard Senator Ives say that she has the votes posted, and I'm wondering if Ms. Finocchario posts her votes as well on her office.
Do you mean personally voted, or do you mean?
No, posting. No, how they didn't vote. Did they miss any elections? Have they always voted?
Okay.
You know, how involved in the process are you for the last 10 years?
And Kathleen, I believe you start this one.
Sure. So I've always voted as a resident of Massachusetts in every Democratic primary, and then sometimes when you're in school, whether you're in law school or you're in undergrad, you vote absentee. And I've taken that very seriously. I'm a lifelong Democrat, and I've supported who I believe were the best candidates in those instances. And my very first job out of college was working for a Democratic candidate for president, and I've worked for a Democratic gubernatorial candidate. I've worked for the Clean Campaigns Campaign Finance Reform Law when I was in college. So I've been very active and also encourage other people to vote. In this most recent legislative session, we passed a bill to allow for early voting and online registration because it's important for there not to be unnecessary hurdles for people to have ballot access.
Thank you. Jessica.
One of the things that I think that we disagree on is I know that you had voted against permanent voter registration. I think that that's really very critical to making sure that people don't fall off the rolls, making sure that we don't have any issues, that people are able to access voting. That's so critically important. I have always voted since I was 18. I was really excited to register as a Democrat. When I went to college, I was a member of something called Hawk the Vote, which signed up people on both sides of the aisle to vote, and I was really excited to do that. I did a lot of work doing that. I've also helped with a program at the Department of Mental Health where we focus on getting clients signed up to vote, and oftentimes it's just a wonderful feeling to be able to do that because they haven't oftentimes voted ever in their life before. So that's something that I feel very strongly about, and I'm really glad you asked that question. I've been a Democratic activist my entire life, and I've supported folks up and down the ticket, both with my votes, with small contributions, and also door knocking on a regular basis. So I think that's important for democracy.
Thank you. We have time for 2 more questions for the evening. We want to thank the audience members who participated and, of course, those of you who are here this evening. The next question will, I believe, start with Jessica. And the question is, what is your opinion on housing illegal immigrants in Massachusetts?
I think that's an extremely important issue, and I'm glad that you brought it up. What is happening right now across our border is tragic, and I support Governor Patrick's belief that we will look on our history and be very concerned. You know, at different parts of our history, we were proud to have the Freedom Trail. We were proud to help Jewish people escape from oppression. And I think that when we look back in history, we will also be proud that we helped these people and these mostly women and children to find refuge and find a safe area. I mean, think about how terrible things must be if you're sending your children across the border alone, not knowing what could happen to them. So I can't imagine that as a parent. I can only imagine that the reason why you would be doing that is because you would be hoping and you'd be praying that people on the other side would take care of them, and I'm glad that we're doing that.
Okay. Thank you, Jessica. Kathleen?
I was happy that the governor put out an arm and extended an arm to the federal government to allow temporary haven for the young people that were here. Ultimately, the federal government didn't take the governor up on the offer. I thought it was very disappointing to see different communities talk about worrying about disease, worrying about permanent costs and things like that. I think the only thing that could have been a little bit better is to be able to communicate to the communities where those temporary locations for those children would have been, so that those communities could come on board and become informed. And I understand what it's like to want to be in the loop on important, impactful decisions so that you can communicate to your residents what the plan is, what the costs are. So it wasn't something that actually came to pass in this instance, but I think it was the proper, not only policy position to take because it was a temporary situation, but it was the right moral response.
Okay, thank you. The last question is 1 minute each for each of you, obviously. And we will be starting with Kathleen. What is your opinion of the juvenile life sentences bill passed that limits the sentencing of convicted murderers between the ages of 14 to 18 to life in prison? This bill now sets terms between 20 to 30 years.
So the Supreme Judicial Court said that it was cruel and unusual punishment to have life without parole for people between the ages of 14 and 18. And the legislature wanted to be able to respond to that decision because it wasn't necessarily fair or just to have someone who committed a heinous crime at the age of 18 have life without parole, and then have someone who is 17 be eligible for parole after 15 years. That's the same crime for second-degree murder. So we wanted to reconcile that. Now, in the legislature, there was a spectrum of where we wanted to go with it. But I was proud to sign on to Senator Feingold's bill, along with Eileen Donahue, Senator Lovely, a number of other Democrats, to be able to say that we need a balance so that we're not having a situation where, on the books, we had an uneven system where, for juvenile offenders, there weren't satisfactory consequences for the most heinous and deadly murder convictions. These were for people that were convicted of first-degree murder.
Thank you. Jessica?
I think that this is an important issue. I was actually thinking about this earlier today because of somebody that I had talked to knocking on some doors, and they said that something very similar had happened to their son. I think that it's important that we address this. To reduce recidivism, we must invest in a lot of things that are really important, and it's something that I would focus on. Vocational training, which has proven to break the cycle of poverty for many. It allows individuals to re-enter our community as employees, taxpayers, and homeowners. And I also think our local law enforcement and public safety teams need adequate funding and the best tools to keep our communities safe. That being said, with this particular issue, I think that if we decide that somebody's entire course of life has been decided in one day as a child, I think that that's certainly very sad. I think that we need to take a look at how we can give them a second chance and see if that would work. And we know that we have overcrowding in our prisons. We know that it's costing a lot of money, and people have had great success with helping these people. So I think that that's the direction we should move in.
Thank you very much.